It's time now for County-Wide, a special presentation of Yavapai Broadcasting News. Join Paul David and Brad Miller as they talk with our community's leaders, newsmakers, and people in the know. You'll hear about the hot topics that affect all our lives here in Yavapai County. And now, here's today's County-Wide.
Well, good day and welcome to the program. It is County-Wide. Brad Miller with you, and we're happy to welcome into studio a couple ladies who've been very, very busy through the month, certainly leading up to our November 6th election. And I think even since, though, Yavapai County Recorder Leslie Hoffman is here, and hello to you.
Hello.
Good to have you here. And Yavapai County Elections Director Lynn Constabile. Hello, Lynn.
Good morning.
Good to talk to the two of you. Is there like a group exhale? Busy time,
Yes,
up to, during, and even after the election. But I know the work continues throughout the year in your offices, and we're going to talk about some of the things that kind of came up through the election and during, and we had conditional ballots. I think was a term a lot of people became familiar with, provisional ballots, and the state seemed to have a little bit of agitation and kind of getting that done, whereas the Yavapai County really didn't. I'm going to talk a little about online voting today. Where's that? Is that ever going to kind of happen? And the vote centers, something that our Secretary of State, Ken Bennett, seems to be hinting may be coming for all of the state, a program that Yavapai County does have in place already. So that's what we're going to kind of chat about today. But let me just ask you very simply, it seems to me, ladies, that our November 6th election, our meaning Yavapai County, went pretty smoothly.
It went very well.
Would you say so?
Yes.
We're very proud of the way that it went.
It took a little time for some of the totals to come in statewide, and we kind of looked towards Secretary Bennett for those kinds of things, and we've heard about that. But it seemed like a lot of that had to do with this issue of folks who had signed up for the early ballots, maybe were on the permanent list, always get your ballot early, and either disregarded those or turned them in. Had done so late that they ended up having to vote a provisional ballot. Is that what kind of jammed up the works at state level?
Yeah, I think what happened is either they signed up for the permanent early voting list and they forgot about it. They got the ballot in the mail, they might have thrown it away, they might have voted it and used it like a sample ballot, but then thought they still had to go to the polls. So basically they disregarded that ballot that we sent them. And when you do that and you're on that permanent list, when you go to the polls, we know that we've already sent you a ballot, so you have to vote a provisional just in case they cross.
Right.
Because we only want to count one.
Two.
Yes,
right.
yeah, we only want to count one. So what we do is we count all the early ballots first, and then we process the provisionals to make sure that everybody gets one vote.
If you get an early ballot from Fred Smith, you toss out the provisional that he might have voted.
That's right.
If he indeed voted twice and just made a mistake somehow.
Right, right.
Or somebody put it in the mail for him and he didn't realize
Sure.
it, thinking on election day you better go down and vote because he'd forgot to mail it.
Right.
Or if
somebody
he
else in the
mailed
household
it,
did.
he might have mailed it really late and thought, oh, we might not have gotten it. So he went and voted a provisional
On
at the
time.
polls.
A lot of reasons that people may slip kind of into that. What is the recommended way to do it? I guess you get that early ballot, use it.
Yes, we
That's
would
what you'd like to
prefer
see.
that. Yeah,
Okay.
it actually saves the taxpayer a lot of money and a lot of cost to just use your early ballot. It's a lot easier to process those because provisional ballots we actually have to research. We have to look and see if you sent in your early. We have to see if you registered. We have to see if you got the right ballot. There's a whole host of steps that we have to go through, and it costs the taxpayer a lot more money because it's a lot more time on the worker's part.
Right. Leslie, we talked
Yes.
about that on the phone.
Yes.
Just after, because it was taking a little bit of time here. But I think you had your canvass was on time with the supervisors, right?
It was.
On schedule
It was,
on that,
but-
whereas the state was a little slower.
Well, we put in a lot of hours. We had people there that last long weekend. There were people there for 12 hours a day, all 3 days.
Yeah.
To be sure that we made it on time. We're very particular about
When
making
you're
all of our
coming up-
deadlines.
After the lessons of the 2000 presidential election, for you ladies and your counterparts across the nation, it's, I mean, let's honestly, is election time a kind of a nerve-wracking time for you?
Oh yeah, we're under the
Do you
microscope.
get nervous, you know?
Well, not so much anymore.
Yeah, but you know,
Yeah.
there's things that can get kind of crazy.
You don't get nervous. You're just very busy. I think
Sure.
you're way too busy to be nervous about
Right,
it.
right.
Yeah.
There's
You
so
know,
much to
we
be
just
done.
want to get it done, and
Yeah.
we want it to be right. You know, accuracy is our #1 priority. If I had to tell the supervisors, I'm not going to be done by Monday, we have to do it on Tuesday, that could happen.
Right.
You know, but we want it to be done correctly.
Sure, and it was. Okay, so provisional ballots, you kind of described. what are conditional? Are they different? And then what are conditional provisional ballots?
Yeah.
We heard all these terms.
I know. A provisional ballot is, you could have a provisional ballot for a number of reasons. One is because you got an early ballot or you're on the permanent early ballot list. One is because you moved or changed your name, and we don't have that information in voter registration. So you moved and you changed your driver's license and you changed your P.O. box, but you didn't tell us.
Gotcha.
Because we're the first person you think of on election day, but the last person you think of any other time.
Right.
So a lot of people don't
Right.
update their information. And then there's also the ID law. So you have to show ID when you go in to vote in person. If you don't have ID or sufficient ID, you get a conditional provisional ballot. So we let you vote, but you have to come and bring your ID to the county recorder's office and prove your ID before we will even look at that ballot.
Right.
So that's what the conditional provisional is. And everybody has 5 business days after a general election to do that. And because we had a holiday in November, that took the deadline to the Wednesday after the election at 5 o'clock. So anybody that voted a conditional provisional, and we had 3. In Yavapai
is that
County.
right?
We had.
Mhm, all-
Okay.
A whole 3. And they had those 5 business days to come and show ID.
Yeah. Well, if you think about it, like what you enumerated there, you really kind of have to fall into a very specific hole
Oh, yeah,
to
yeah.
end up having to do that. But
Yeah.
here again, it's good that there's a mechanism to take care of that.
Yeah.
If it should
And that's
happen.
why there's provisional ballots.
Yeah.
Is so that there is a mechanism. If there's any question, you still get to cast your ballot, cast your vote, and then we do the research to see if you were qualified to do so.
And we got about 4,000 provisionals, and I think 80% of those counted.
Yes,
Yeah.
Yavapai County, again, had a very strong voter turnout,
absolutely.
as I think often leading the state, or certainly way up there in terms of the counties.
Yes.
Yes, we were leading the state.
Any idea why that is? Just a
We have
concerned
the best
citizenry?
voters.
That's all there is to it. That's the bottom line. No matter
Well,
what the reason, it
and
seems like.
We do a lot of vote by mail, and all
Right.
the off elections and all the city and town elections, we do vote by mail, and people are used to turning in that ballot.
Yeah.
And we
simple as
have
that.
very clean voter registration rolls. We have people who work all day, every day on our voter registration rolls, updating them, checking vital records, checking the newspapers, making sure that anything that comes up, we're questioning, we're looking, seeing if those people are on our voter registration rolls, contacting people, getting all of our records from motor vehicle. We're continually working on those. And our vote by mail also helps to keep those records clean. And I think that has a lot to do with it as well. So we have very clean registration rolls.
We kind of heard about a number of states prior to the election. Now that became a political football. I don't want to visit on that. But a number of states started this. We kept hearing about purging the rolls and this. Does that, forgetting some of the accusations about what that was done for, talk about, is that because maybe they didn't keep up on those things as well as they could, that you end up with if you don't purge the rolls, you don't look into do that kind of research you just described, you kind of get a big pile of mud at the bottom that you've got to clean out finally?
Well, and actually, purging the rolls is a federal law.
Yeah.
Every 2 years, we do that anyways by federal law.
Okay.
If you're on, basically what happens is if we send you something a couple times and it comes back to us, because election mail can't be forwarded. So it comes back to us, we try to find you. We do a lot of research in there, and maybe you
Mailings.
moved out of state and we don't know. Then you get put on this inactive list, and we wait. We wait for you to show up at the polls, or we wait for you to sign a petition, or we wait for you to do something to notify us, yeah, I'm still here.
Right.
And we wait 2 federal elections. So that's a total of 4 years.
Okay.
And then if you never show up again, Brad,
Gotcha.
Yeah.
then we take you off the rolls.
Okay.
Basically, we say, okay, he probably moved out of state. We don't know where he is. He's
Okay.
gone.
And that's all determined by law,
Yes.
I suppose.
Right, yes.
Sure. Okay.
And because we do the mailings and we do vote by mail, we're on top of that all the time.
Right.
So that list is always active, always changing. You know, we send regular letter out that can be forwarded saying the election mail was sent back, where are you at?
Sure.
And it keeps it
Chase
clean.
it down.
We do.
Right,
We
we
chase
do.
them
To
down.
how
We
you need to
do.
do it. Okay.
Yes.
Ladies, let's go ahead and take a short break. Our guests, again, it's Countywide Leslie Hoffman, Yavapai County Recorder, Elections Director Lynn Constabile. More to come after this on Countywide.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
I was in junior high the first time I caught my mom using denial. She had to have known her painkillers were missing because I kept stealing them. Her denial was so out of hand.
So she doesn't even know? I'm going out.
It was like I could get away with anything.
You kids have fun.
And that was when I knew. And she was addicted to denial.
Denial is a drug. Get help. The partnership at drugfree.org.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
Now, some action from the courts. Billie Jean King renewing her rivalry with Arthritis. First set, furious volley, and right to the net for a winner. Beautiful forehand there. Arthritis, stunned. And here, match point. Billie Jean with the ace, taking it in straight sets. Afterwards, a jubilant Billie Jean King.
Tennis is a weapon for me with arthritis. There's nothing like it for me to hit a ball, run to the ball, anytime, any court. I'm ready. Let's go.
What's your weapon against arthritis? Find out at fightarthritispain.org.
Welcome back to the program. Again, it's Countywide. Our guest today, Leslie Hoffman. Lynn Constabile talking about the election and what goes on so much that, like you say, everybody thinks about you on Election Day. But I know that the two of you and your staffs are busy all year long doing some of the things we've already chatted about. Before we get away totally from early voting list, how do you get on there? If I want to get on that early, I get my ballot in the mail ahead of time. How do I sign up for that?
There's several ways. You can go on servicearizona.com.
Okay.
And sign up. You can contact our office. We send you a form. You can come in and fill out our forms.
Okay.
So there's several ways that you can get on that permanent early voter list.
Yeah, you can even just send us a letter as long as it has the right information on there, like your name and date of birth and your signature. We can get you on there.
And then you're on it until you ask to be taken off.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. I've been on it for years and it is
Me
sweet.
too.
Sweet. It comes how 3 weeks before the election typically?
Yeah,
I mean,
we send them out
days.
26 days before the election.
It's interesting to me. One of the side effects that I found of that, I did just for convenience sake, but I'll get that ballot and it starts to kind of involve you into what's going on, like with all the propositions we had on this last one. Yes. I don't know how many people walk in on Election Day and look at it and say, well, I didn't know we even had that many, let alone what they are.
Right.
And maybe that's just kind of a nice sidebar effect to what it was. It works for me anyway.
Well, and you can do your research ahead of time.
Bingo. Right,
yeah,
exactly.
it's
you see
so
what it all
nice.
is and give some thought to it. So maybe some more well-informed voters. Let's talk about the vote centers. Describe for me, if you would, what these are for folks who may be listening who are uninitiated.
Okay. Well, in the past, we had traditional polling places where wherever you lived, you were assigned to a place to go. And we had a signature roster there, and your name was in it, and you had to go there. And if you went anyplace else, you had to vote a provisional, which would not count. You had to be in the place where you were because you have a specific ballot to vote on. So let's say that you're in a city or you're in a fire district or you're in a water district. That will be on your ballot. You have a precinct-specific ballot. And Vote Centers basically opens that up so that if you're in Yavapai County and you're a Yavapai County registered voter, you can go to any vote center. And how we accomplish that is we bought these e-poll books, they're called, and the whole county's voter registration is in that book. So you can walk in anywhere and they can pull up your record and then they can say, okay, Brad, would you like a paper ballot or would you like to vote on the touchscreen? And we actually have ballot on demand printers at the urban vote centers that will print you a ballot for your precinct.
Okay.
So it's very specific, but you could go anywhere. And the e-poll books are all hooked into a central server. So, and we call it a transaction data unit. And it sends your transaction. It says, okay, Brad Miller voted here today, and it sends it in. And then if you try to go to any other vote center, I know, they'll bring up Brad Miller, and it'll go and ask the server, did Brad Miller vote already today? And it comes back, yep, he did. Don't let him vote again. So you can't vote twice.
Right.
We should be using Paul David's name for these examples.
Okay, Paul
but other
David.
than that, I But yeah, that would have to be a mechanism too. It sounds like to me that what has enabled this whole deal is technology.
Yes,
absolutely.
Yes, we bought the e-poll books and the ballot on demand printers, and that has enabled us to go to this vote center concept.
Sure.
And we have kind of a mixed mode concept. We have a lot of areas in Yavapai County that are rural that you wouldn't go out of your way to go vote there that day, like Baghdad or Ash Fork. You know, you might not go there just to vote that day. If you were passing through, yeah.
Sure.
But the urban areas, Cottonwood and Camp Verde and Sedona and Prescott are all places people work, and they go to the doctors and they go shopping, and they might be out already and they can go vote there. So those places we have the BOD printers. And in the rural areas, if you are passing through, like on your way to Phoenix, if you want to stop in Black Canyon City, we have touch screens with all the ballots on them. So you can still stop, you can still check in, but you just can't get a paper ballot at the rural centers.
Okay. Now this is all on election day.
Yes.
It's not an early ballot option.
Right.
That way that's still a mail thing, and I suppose always will be.
Well, we have in-person early voting also.
Okay, but that's day of, right?
No,
no, I'm sorry. Okay. Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Explain for our listeners
go ahead.
how that is. That's right.
Yes, you can vote in person again 26 days prior to the election. You can come to the office over here on 6th Street, or you can go to the office, our county office on Fair Street in Prescott, and you can vote in person early.
Right.
So a lot of people, they just like going in, they like going in to a location, but they may be planning on being out of town.
Sure.
They may not want to deal with lines. So you can do that. So we offer 3 different kinds of voting in Yavapai County. I think that also aids in our great election turnout, is people have a lot of choices. You don't have to go on election day to a vote center. You don't have to do mail.
Right.
You can come into our office and vote as well.
Yeah, a lot of different ways to do it, and it certainly seems in Yavapai County's case that something is responsible for this heavy turnout, a good, strong electorate, but also these options would seem to play into that. These vote centers, Secretary of State Bennett talked after the election about, the word he used was overhaul, and I don't know what all that might entail. He indicated in a couple of statements that I saw that the voting center might be something to adopt on a state level. Do you have any insights? Yavapai County's there, but for everybody else.
And you know, the vote centers, they're very convenient for the voter, but they take a lot more work on our part. We have a lot more prep work. We have to do a lot more machines, and we have older voting machines, and we have to put out a lot more machines to make these work. In Maricopa County, how their machines are set up, they're not really set up for that. They are precinct-based. They would really need to buy all new equipment in order to do that, I believe.
Good luck with that anytime soon.
Yeah, and they have a big area to cover. So, you know, I think we've said it a lot of times, anything's possible with money.
Right.
Okay.
And they would need a lot of it, probably. But I think they're interested in the concept of vote centers. I mean, I think, especially in our mobile society, we usually live in one place and work in another. And these are the kind of demographics that the vote centers are good for. It's people that are already out there during the day. We did a study 4 years ago, and we haven't had a chance to do it for the 2012 election, but the people that go to the polling places and the vote centers on election day are not your 50 and over people, and not your really young people, but you're in between, in your 20 to 45-year-olds is who goes out.
The real core working.
Core working group goes to the polling place on election day.
Makes sense.
So now they don't have to leave the house extra early in the morning, or be sure they get home to vote at their precinct. We didn't get one provisional ballot for being at the wrong place.
Innovation toward convenience sometimes is a good thing. And it sure seems like the case here. We do need to take another break, so we'll go ahead and we'll do that. But when we come back, then I want to ask you what Ken Bennett does mean by an overhaul. If it's not just vote centers, I want to get your snapshot on that, ladies. Leslie Hoffman, Lynn Constabile from the county are here. We'll be back right after this.
Having a fire escape plan is very important to keep your family safe and together in the event of a fire. When you awake to the sound of a smoke detector and smoke in your room, don't stand straight up. Carefully roll off your bed and stay low under the smoke. If your door is shut, feel the door with the back of your hand. Slowly open the door if no heat is felt. Always stay low until you get to the outside of your home. Always have 2 ways out of your house and a specified meeting place somewhere outside your home. Home escape plans should be drawn up and rehearsed on a regular basis. This could be the difference between life and death if caught in a fire.
Yes, ready, ready. Go get it.
Oh, come on, Randy. Animal shelter, here I come. And no, I'm not crazy or emotionally damaged. That's a stereotype. I just belong to a total loser. I'm a good dog. So if you want a pet, adopt. And if you see Randy, tell him he dropped his wallet.
Fire can happen at any time. What would you try to save?
My family photos.
My grandfather's war memorabilia.
My dogs.
I'm firefighter Brandon Wacker with the Cotton Fire Department. A working smoke detector is your best defense in the event of a fire. Make sure you have a smoke detector in every room except your kitchen. Test them monthly and change the battery once a year. Take the time to save the things you can't replace.
It's easy to tell if you've had way too many. But what if you've had just one too many? Buzz driving is drunk driving.
Welcome back to the program, our final segment. Leslie Hoffman is our Yavapai County Recorder. County Elections Director Lynn Constabile here, kind of reflecting on the election and some of the things to come. Again, I don't want to pick on Secretary Bennett, but that word overhaul suggested, I think, to a lot of folks, Lynn, you kind of said during the break, caused a tiny bit of temporary panic in your office.
Yeah.
But it sounds like you've chatted with him since then, and it sounds like he's not talking about a big change. Leslie, you were saying when an overhaul a car, you don't change a car into a train.
Right. That was his explanation.
You said
all
tune-up might have been a better. Okay,
yes.
So he's just
his
seeing
thinking
something.
was overhauling is just upgrading.
Okay.
And that's what he told us. He said when you overhaul a car, it doesn't turn into a train or an airplane.
Yeah.
Okay.
It just runs better.
So improvements are.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
And
that was his thought.
It's always a good idea to look at your process and see where you can improve it. I
Right.
mean,
Sure.
that's how we went to vote centers.
Right.
We looked at the process and said, how can we make this better for the voter?
And there you go.
Right.
Want to finish up, got to ask you about online voting. It seems like there's two camps on this thing, and almost none of them do what you folks do and are on the inside of these things. Oh, it'd be a great idea. We can shop online. Why can't I vote online? Others are like, oh my gosh, you got to be out of your mind. Any kid with a computer terminal can screw up your vote. What do the two of you say about it?
You know, I read a lot of articles on it, and it's not ready yet. I haven't seen anything that says this is the way to go, this is the secure. You know, you're always going to have that little bit of fear of, oh, it can be broken into and
Right.
hacked, and I don't think the society is ready for it yet.
Yeah. First time you have any election where there's a tie in the vote, unless you have that, everybody's going to scream computer fraud.
Yeah.
Sure.
You know, a one vote margin, people say, oh, it was them, they cheated. It just does seem rife for at least a perception of meddling or fraud or
Well, and there's
or
still
worse.
the camp that doesn't even like the touch screens because it's not a piece of paper that you can go back to and look at. Although our touch screens have a paper audit trail, it's not the same. I think a lot of people just feel secure that here's the piece of paper that I marked and I can count it again.
And there's a lot of tradition, I guess, behind that kind of thing. For
I think eventually it will go online. I mean, that's the way we're going. So I think eventually we will see that, maybe in our lifetime, but it has a long way to go.
I get a sense, Lynn, you're thinking, but perhaps I'll be retired by then.
Yeah, I'm hoping.
It does seem like
there is some online voting.
Sure.
Our
it's
Yavapai
done.
voters
Right.
are overseas and uniformed military.
Yeah.
They are the only ones who currently can vote.
Right.
So they're, it's going that way, but it's going to be a while just because of the security.
Sure. The whole ballgame is the security.
Sure.
And the privacy goes away with those voters.
Right.
We can see their ballot.
Right.
When you vote by mail, we have a privacy envelope. We don't know how you voted.
Sure. A lot of things to it. Ladies, thank you so much. The election went very smoothly by all accounts. We appreciate your work on that and all year long, keeping things going. A very strong voter turnout from Yavapai County typically, and again this time, leading among the counties in the state. Leslie Hoffman, Lynn Constabile, our guests. We thank them. We thank you. We'll see you next time on Countywide.
This has been Countywide, a special presentation of Yavapai Broadcasting News. Listen in each Tuesday and Thursday as we tackle the hot topics and talk to the decision makers across Yavapai County. That's Countywide with Brad Miller and Paul David each Tuesday and Thursday on this Yavapai Broadcasting station.